So I just wanted to make a video about Darman, the man, the myth. Just cash in on the fame, I guess. Cash in on all the talk that's been happening all over the place. But honestly, it started off as just me criticizing his
message,
and then I got some weird info. Just some weird info about how his family is deep into some weird legal shit. I'll discuss that soon, but let me just talk about why I think Darman is actually way more damaging to the way people's struggles are being represented than you'd think. So basically, if you don't know, Darman is just a channel that is doing really well for itself on the surface, and all the channel is about is showing people in a shitty situation, showing another person that doesn't understand the situation, and then a resolution at the end where the person who doesn't understand learns a lesson. Sounds right. Sounds good, right? Sounds very wholesome. Well, it's not. Here's one thing that I really don't like about Darman. He thinks that he's changing lives through his videos. He's making people happier, making people better. How shallow of a person do you need to be to think that you're changing lives when you're doing something that is ultimately damaging to those lives? I know it sounds like very pessimistic from my part and like I'm being way too unforgiving, but as soon as I start getting into the examples, you see what I'm trying to say. But really quickly, I just want to talk about Darman's childhood. So Darman was born in the 1970s, I think, and he was raised in a rich family. Let's just put it that way. His parents were rich. They ran a company, a taxi company, and they also rented real estate. They're successful. He's rich, and he's even more rich now because he took that money and invested, which is a smart thing to do. I don't criticize his investing and his becoming rich. So his parents, Baljit and Surinder Singh, I can only put it in one way, really. His parents are predators. They're assholes. They're terrible people. So the parents were being sued for renting out uninhabitable property to immigrants and people who cannot speak English. So people who are vulnerable, let's put it that way. People who can't really fight for themselves in a country that's different and a country that they don't understand the language in as well as others. And I think it's the perfect crime too, because one, they can't defend themselves, and two, if you're renting out to the same ethnicity, because Darman's parents are Indian, you can just get them to shut up. Tell them like, no, this is the best we got in the US. Don't you want to rent out from people that you know, people that you can trust because we come from your country? That, in my opinion, is horrible, because the people who are being abused in this situation don't know what to do. They're not put in a good situation and they don't know how to fight back. But thankfully, the couple have been outed as abusive people who do this, and now they're getting sued. So since at least 2016, the defendants have rented uninhabitable or dilapidated units in buildings across the city to tenants who have often low-income immigrants and speak little to no English. Defendants have profited from the predatory business model by renting unsafe units to tenants who are desperate to find affordable housing and often unable to take legal action to defend their rights. Do you see what's happening here? That is horrible. That is Darman's parents. This came out in 2019. So at least, what is it, like 4 years? For at least 4 years, people have been getting abused. And just in case you might think that these people are not actually rich and powerful, it says it right here. The defendants have used their wealth and power not to help vulnerable families, but to exploit these tenants in a way that is both illegal and inhumane. Those people lived through a lack of smoke and carbon monoxide detector, no heat units, no hot running water, unpermitted and dangerous gas lines, which could lead to an explosion, unpermitted and shoddy construction that led to structural problems, which could lead to building collapse, serious fire hazards, improper venting in kitchen stoves, lack of ventilation in all units, roof leaks, ceiling too low for inhabited spaces, no garbage or waste removal service, infestation of cockroach, rats, and mice, generally dilapidated living conditions. Really? And you want me to stand behind you, Darman, and say you're making people's lives better when you have your parents doing this? I mean, honestly, I'm sure you know what's happening. You've been living with your parents for long enough, and you know what your parents are doing. Everyone knows what their parents are doing. You're old enough. At 2016, you were already pretty successful, weren't you? Why don't you change people's lives and take those people out of those terrible situations, tell your parents that they're doing something really bad, and then move them somewhere better with all that wealth you've made? But no, you have to sit on your laurels and tell us how lives are bad and people are horrible, but I'm not, because I'm solving people's problems. Look at me making those videos and teaching people lessons. Are you insane? That is horrible. But that's besides the point. This went through a whole different tangent of how Dhar is actually a hypocrite. But I didn't want to go into that. It just happened to come. Like, I looked it up last minute before recording this because I wanted some history on his childhood. I didn't really care about what his parents did before I knew that they were actually criminals. That's fucked. That's really fucked. I mean, you can take it from a cultural point of view and say like, oh, living with cockroaches and mice, yeah, that's what we do back in India. Fair enough, but you're not in India anymore. You're in the US. You need to give a basic level of life for the tenants. And you have a guy that sits there making videos, by the way, that include a lot of renters that are getting thrown out of their houses. Is that something that you see a lot of, Dhar? Are a lot of immigrants getting thrown out of their houses and new immigrants are getting put in just because they can't pay for it anymore? Are you trying to tell us something, Mr. Dhar? Mr. Yondu lookalike? Mr. Only a few shades of blue away from being a cosplayer? Alright, I guess that's gonna be it. This recording was haphazard as fuck. It was last minute, and I guess if I'm gonna leave you with anything, here's a comment that I made on one of Dhar videos of student getting bullied. My issue with these types of videos is that every scenario depends on something to happen out of nowhere, and so we end up believing that nothing would have changed if it weren't for that crazy coincidence. So then if a person really is suffering from these issues that Dhar dude discusses, they think that they had no chance at improving their situation. These videos truly suck. I think milking this forced positivity from shitty situation is borderline abusive to the audience. But if you wanted to make these vids more relatable to the people who are actually in need of help, show them how to help themselves instead of having some crazy coincidence solve everything. Alright, see ya.